actor who really brought, realness to television, playing a great character, playing a great son on the Cosby Show.
The world was left in disbelief when the news broke. Malcolm Jamal Warner, the beloved actor we grew up watching, was suddenly gone. But what if I told you this wasn't just a tragic loss? What if I told you it was a murder? A calculated move to silence a man who knew too much about the darkest secrets of Hollywood. Malcolm was about to expose everything. His tell-all memoir was set to reveal the double life of none other than Bill Cosby and the powerful figures who'd been protecting him for decades. But before that truth could be unleashed, Malcolm's life was abruptly cut short. Ice Cube, stepping forward with the truth, is now revealing that Malcolm wasn't just an accident waiting to happen. He was silenced, hunted, and ultimately destroyed by the very system he tried to break open. He was followed. He was threatened. His every move watched. And despite being on the brink of revealing everything, Malcolm was taken away in the dead of night. His family is devastated, his legacy at risk, and now, as the world watches in silence, the real question is this: what really happened to Malcolm Jamal Warner? No autopsy, no investigation, just a cold, eerie silence. Ice Cube refuses to let this go. The truth, hidden in the shadows for so long, is now coming to light. But at what cost? As the fight for justice grows louder, the power players behind Hollywood's darkest secrets will stop at nothing to make sure the truth stays buried. Will we ever know the full story? Or will this be the greatest cover-up in Hollywood's history? The news hit like a freight train. Malcolm Jamal Warner, the heart and soul of our childhood, was gone just like that. One moment, the man who had brought Theo Huxtable to life, who had made us laugh, cry, and think, was here, and the next, silence. The kind of silence that weighs down on you like an unbearable weight. The kind of silence that makes you question everything you've been told. It was supposed to be an accident. That's what they said. A tragic drowning, a freak accident in Costa Rica. The details were sparse. The media didn't seem too interested in digging deeper. There were no major investigations, no press conferences, just the headlines that flashed across our screens like empty words. Malcolm Jamal Warner dead at 45, and then nothing. But for those of us who knew him, for those of us who truly followed his career, something about that didn't add up. Malcolm wasn't just any actor. He was a symbol, a man who broke boundaries and shattered stereotypes, who showed us what it meant to be real, to be vulnerable. And now, in the wake of his sudden death, a dark truth is starting to surface. What if Malcolm wasn't just another celebrity lost too soon? What if his death wasn't an accident? What if it was a calculated move to silence him before he could spill a truth that could shake Hollywood to its very core? It all started with whispers. Quiet conversations among the people closest to him. Rumors that Malcolm had been working on something explosive, something dangerous. A memoir. A book that was set to expose not just the double life of Bill Cosby, the man who helped launch his career, but the entire corrupt network of Hollywood elites who had been covering up Cosby's crimes for decades. This wasn't just any book. This was going to be a bombshell. This was going to tear down the walls of the entertainment industry and reveal the hidden truth. The secrets, the manipulation, the dark games played by the powerful people behind the scenes. Malcolm had files, documents, emails, recordings, everything he needed to blow the lid off the entire system. But then, just as he was about to reveal everything, something changed. Malcolm became paranoid. His closest friends remember the last few months of his life as being filled with tension. He was jumpy. He didn't want to take phone calls. He didn't want to go out. He stopped meeting with old friends. And the worst part? He told Ice Cube, one of his closest confidants, that he was being followed, that someone was watching his every move, that he feared for his life. "There's something they're trying to hide," Malcolm said, his voice trembling with fear. "They're trying to shut me up." And just like that, a dark cloud began to gather over Malcolm's life. A shadow that seemed to follow him wherever he went. He was afraid. He was living in constant fear, knowing that the truth he was about to share could cost him everything. But he didn't back down. Not at first. Then the worst happened. Malcolm was gone, his life snuffed out in what the media quickly labeled an accident. But no one in his inner circle believed that for a second. The way things unfolded, it didn't feel right. The media was eerily silent. No investigation, no follow-up. Just the same headline over and over. Malcolm Jamal Warner dead at 45. But the truth started to slip out. And it was more chilling than any of us could have imagined. Ice Cube, the man who had been one of Malcolm's closest friends, couldn't stay silent any longer. He knew something wasn't right. He knew that Malcolm hadn't just died in some tragic accident. He knew that the world had been lied to, and he was ready to expose the truth. Cube came forward, claiming that Malcolm had been silenced, taken out by the very people who had been threatened by the memoir he was writing. And it wasn't just Cosby at the center of it all. Cube says that Cosby was only one piece of the puzzle. The deeper truth, the one that had Malcolm's life on the line, involved the entire Hollywood power structure. Bill Cosby wasn't just the beloved TV dad everyone knew. No, according to Cube, Cosby was a puppet master, a man who pulled strings behind the scenes, erasing evidence, controlling narratives, and silencing anyone who dared to challenge him. Cosby had built an empire on manipulation and control, and when Malcolm started to pull away from him, when he started turning down shady meetings and distancing himself from the very people who had helped him rise, things took a dangerous turn. Malcolm's career was sabotaged. He was frozen out of projects, blacklisted from the industry. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that, according to insiders, people started to notice something strange. Malcolm was being followed. Threats were made. And then one day he was gone. No tribute from Cosby. No heartfelt message from his father on social media. No statement from the industry. Just silence. Deafening silence. It wasn't just Malcolm who noticed it. Fans, too, began to ask questions. Why was there no investigation into his death? Why wasn't the media asking the tough questions? It was almost as if someone was working very hard to make sure the truth stayed buried. But Ice Cube refused to let it go. He started speaking out, claiming that Malcolm was taken out because he was about to expose Cosby's double life. And that wasn't all. Cube says Malcolm's memoir was only part of a bigger plan. Malcolm wasn't just writing a book. He was making a documentary that would have blown the lid off Hollywood's deepest secrets. The power players in the industry, those who had hidden behind their smiles for years, were terrified of what Malcolm was about to reveal. Rumor has it that a fixer was involved, a Hollywood go-between, someone with connections to both the elite and the darker corners of the industry. This fixer's sole job? To make sure Malcolm stayed quiet. Permanently. But even with all the pressure, Malcolm didn't back down. He continued to work on his project, knowing that the truth he was about to unleash could change everything. And now, as the pieces of the puzzle start to fall into place, one thing is clear. This wasn't some random tragedy. This was a calculated conspiracy, a move made to stop a man who had too much power, too much truth, and too much courage for the Hollywood machine to handle. And it's not over yet. Ice Cube is still out there, fighting to uncover the truth. The silence from the mainstream media is deafening, but Cube and the people who loved Malcolm are making sure that his voice doesn't fade away. The fight for justice is just beginning. But it's not just about one man's death. This is bigger than that. This is about a system that protects the powerful, silences the truth, and buries anyone who dares to speak up. And now, Malcolm's legacy is taking on a life of its own. His story is not over. It's just beginning. This is the fight of a lifetime, and it's going to take all of us to bring the truth to light. Stay with us as we dig deeper into this dark mystery. The truth is out there, and it's waiting to be uncovered. The truth behind Malcolm Jamal Warner's death is unraveling, and it's more sinister than anyone could have ever imagined. What started as a whisper among a few insiders is now an explosive movement, and Ice Cube, the man who refused to stay silent, is at the heart of it all. But the deeper he digs, the darker the truth becomes. What we're about to reveal is a conspiracy that's been decades in the making, one that stretches all the way to the top of Hollywood's elite. The silence from the media is deafening, and it's only adding fuel to the fire. But what's even more chilling is the fact that Ice Cube's accusations are becoming impossible to ignore. Malcolm Jamal Warner, a man who had been loved and admired by millions, was not just a victim of an accident or a tragedy. No, he was taken out, silenced by the very people he once called family. And at the center of this web of deception lies one name that nobody could ever imagine: Bill Cosby. For years, Cosby was revered as the father figure of Black Hollywood, the man who paved the way for Malcolm and countless others. But now, Cube's claims are flipping that narrative on its head. Ice Cube is exposing Cosby not as a beloved star, but as the puppet master behind the scenes, manipulating, controlling, and erasing anyone who dared to get too close to the truth. And Malcolm? He was a threat to that power. What Ice Cube is revealing is shocking. Cosby didn't just act as a father on screen. He ran the show behind the scenes, controlling careers, calling the shots, and keeping people in line with fear and manipulation. The second Malcolm began pulling away from Cosby, refusing to take meetings and rejecting shady offers, that's when everything changed. Cosby's empire began to crumble. And that's when the pressure started mounting on Malcolm. The closer he got to revealing the truth, the more dangerous things became. But it wasn't just Cosby who was pulling the strings. No, this goes much deeper. According to Cube, there was a whole network of powerful people, some of the biggest names in Hollywood, who were trying to keep this dark secret buried. Cube claims that these executives, producers, and directors had been shielding Cosby from public scrutiny for decades. And when Malcolm came too close to exposing it all, they made sure he was silenced. The most shocking part? Ice Cube believes that Malcolm was being watched, followed, and even threatened in the months leading up to his death. He wasn't just paranoid, he was being hunted. The phone calls, the late-night meetings, the way he'd suddenly stop talking to certain people. All of it was a sign that something dark was closing in on him. Malcolm knew something was wrong, and he said it plainly to Ice Cube. "They're trying to shut me up." Those words have haunted Cube ever since. Because not long after, Malcolm was gone.
Just like that.
No warning, no explanation, only silence. A silence that would have buried the truth forever if it weren't for Ice Cube. Cube wasn't buying the official story. Not for a second. And neither were the fans. The social media explosion that followed Malcolm's death was nothing short of a movement. Hashtags like #JusticeForMalcolm and #CubeToldTheTruth began trending, and the public demand for answers grew louder. Cube knew that he couldn't just stand by and let this go unanswered. He began collecting evidence, speaking out on podcasts, and dropping bombshell after bombshell about what had really happened to his friend. But here's where things take an even darker turn. Ice Cube isn't just exposing Cosby. He's shining a light on a whole system that's been manipulating the truth for decades. Cube claims that Cosby's silence after Malcolm's death wasn't just suspicious. It was a clear indication that Cosby had something to hide. The media, for its part, was eerily silent. Why was there no investigation? No public inquiry? Cube believes that the powers that be were doing everything in their power to keep this story buried. The situation started to escalate quickly. Cube, who had always been known for speaking his mind, began receiving anonymous threats. Strange cars parked outside his house, threatening emails, and worst of all, the feeling that someone was watching his every move. But Cube didn't back down. He couldn't. His friend's death wasn't just an accident. It was a cover-up, a conspiracy to protect the powerful and silence the truth.
But the truth is still out there.
And Cube is determined to find it. He claims that there's a tape, a recorded phone call between someone in Cosby's inner circle calling Malcolm a problem that had to be dealt with. Cube says that tape could be the key to unlocking the whole conspiracy. But that tape, like so many other pieces of evidence, is still in the shadows, hidden from public view. And the deeper Cube digs, the more he uncovers. Word on the street is that Malcolm wasn't just writing a memoir. He was creating a full-fledged documentary. A documentary that would expose Cosby's deepest secrets, the racism and exploitation that permeates Hollywood, and the shadowy figures who truly run the show. Insiders say that the film was about to reveal everything, names, dates, deals, and scandals that would have rocked the industry to its core. But that documentary never saw the light of day. In fact, Cube believes it was actively destroyed. The files, the footage, the drafts, all of it was wiped out. But Cube is relentless. He's still searching for any trace of Malcolm's work. He's hired a private cybersecurity team to track down digital evidence, convinced that Malcolm's missing files are hidden somewhere deep within the industry. It gets even more sinister. Some sources claim that the nonprofits Malcolm had been linked to were not just charitable organizations. They were involved in covering up scandals, paying hush money, and protecting the reputations of the most powerful people in Hollywood. One of the most chilling allegations is that Cosby, already desperate to salvage what remained of his public image, saw Malcolm as a major threat. If Malcolm's memoir and documentary had been released, it could have brought everything crashing down. And so, according to these whispers, they made sure Malcolm could never speak again. This isn't just about Malcolm's death. It's about the power and control that Hollywood has over the truth. It's about the people in charge who will do anything to keep their dirty secrets buried. And it's about the courage of one man, Ice Cube, who refuses to let this story die. As the fight for justice continues, more people are starting to speak out. There's an undeniable sense of momentum building. Names like Jaleel White, Debbie Allen, and Tempest Bledsoe have subtly hinted at the pressure they've faced to stay silent. The cracks are starting to show, and the truth is starting to leak out. But the real question is this: what happens next? Will the truth ever come to light? Will Cosby and the rest of Hollywood's elite be held accountable for their actions? And what does this mean for the future of the entertainment industry? The only thing we know for sure is this: Malcolm Jamal Warner's story isn't over. If anything, it's just beginning. This is it, the moment that will change everything. Malcolm Jamal Warner, the man we all knew and loved, wasn't just a victim of a random accident. He was silenced. He was taken out because he was about to expose the darkest secrets of Hollywood, the very secrets that have been buried for decades. And now, the fight for justice is on. Ice Cube is risking everything to bring the truth to light. The truth that powerful men in Hollywood, including Bill Cosby, are terrified of. The truth that will shake the foundation of the entertainment industry to its core. But we need you. Yes, you. We need you to be a part of this movement. We need you to speak out, share this video, and make sure that Malcolm's story doesn't fade into the shadows. If you believe that the truth must come to light, if you believe that no man, no matter how powerful, should be allowed to silence those who speak the truth, then it's time to act.
Smash that like button. Hit subscribe.
And turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single update on this developing story. Share this with everyone you know, your friends, your family, your social media followers. Let the world know that the silence ends now. Malcolm didn't just write a memoir. He was starting a revolution. A revolution that can expose the corruption, the fear, and the lies that have held Hollywood in a stranglehold for years. We can't let his death be in vain. We can't let those responsible get away with this. The pressure is mounting, and the truth will not stay hidden forever. So, what are you waiting for? Stand with Malcolm. Stand with Ice Cube. Stand for justice. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Share your theories. Let's keep this conversation going until the truth is out. Together, we can bring the light to the darkness.